Alright, guys, welcome back. We are following the adventures of Hiccup, the Viking, as he tries to train his dragon, Toothless. It hasn't been going well. We finally got some breakthroughs in our last chapter when he finally realized if he tells jokes, Toothless will do the stuff he needs him to. Toothless is still whiny. I mean, his is just a baby dragon. But he's still kind of whiny. He still only does stuff because he gets something out of it, not because he's being trained. So we're going to go on to chapter 10, which is called Thor's Day Thursday. And see how how the initiation ceremony goes, or how this ceremony goes. The Thor's Day Thursday celebration were truly a spectacular occasion. The hairy hooligans, fierce rivals, the meatheads from nearby Meathead Island, sailed across the inner ocean into the Isle of Burke for this great gathering. The visitors set up camp in Blackheart Bay, which turned overnight from an empty desert of echoing seagulls into a bustling... I lost my space there. A bustling village of tents made out of sails too patched to be used at sea anymore. By the next morning, the long beach was packed with stalls and jugglers and fortune tellers. There was a happy confusion of Vikings spotting old friends and practicing their sword play and yelling at the children to stop hitting each other right now, for Thor's sake. No, I really mean it this time, or else. Vast Viking men sat on uncomfortable rocks, guffawing loudly like gigantic sea lions in a holiday mood. Impressive, large Viking women huddled in groups, cackling like seagulls, and downing whole mugs of tea in one swallow. All right, so there's a program of events for this celebration, and it says, welcome to Thor's Day Thursday celebration. It's program of events. 9 o'clock, hammer throwing for the over 60s only. Meet up at the Marooner's Rock with your own hammer and somebody else's hard hat, special for spectators. 10:30. How many gull eggs can you eat in 1 minute? Baggy Bum the Beer Belly is the defending champion in his hotly contested competition. 11:30. Ugliest baby contest. 12:30. Axe fighting display. Admire the delicate art of fighting with axes. 2 o'clock, Young Heroes Final Initiation Test. Watch tomorrow's Viking heroes as they compete. Whose dragon will be the most obedient and whose will catch the most fish? Blood, teeth, loud yelling. This sport has everything. At 3:30, grand raffle and closing ceremonies. Right. Despite Old Wrinkly's gloomy forecast, terrible storms and typhoons, it was gloriously hot June day with not even a hint of a cloud in the offing. The young hero's final initiation test would not start until 2 p.m. that afternoon, so Hiccup spent the morning listening round-eyed to storytellers telling all the tales of dirty Danes and pirate princesses. He was sick with nerves, so he found it difficult to enjoy the occasion as much as he had in previous years. Even Goober, throwing up during the how many gulls eggs can you eat in 1 minute competition, fails to rise more than a faint smile on his pale, tense face. Hiccup's family had a picnic lunch overlooking the axe fighting display. Hiccup could not eat a thing, nor, unusually, could Toothless, who was in a difficult mood and turned his nose up at tuna sandwiches Valharama offered. Good to keep your dragon's appetite sharp for the games, boomed Stoic the Vast, who was in an excellent mood. He had won a bet on Google Toad in the Ugliest Baby contest and was looking forward to seeing his son's brilliant display during the initiation test. As the day wore on, a hot wind suddenly started blowing out of nowhere. It was still sweltering, but ominous gray clouds were gathering on the horizon. There was an odd rumble of thunder in the air. Maybe Old Wrinkly had been right, thought Hiccup, as he gazed upwards. And Thor is going to put in his traditional appearance at the Thor's Day Thursday celebration. Parp! Will all you youths hoping to be initiated into the tribes this year please make their way to the ground at the left of the beach? Hiccup gulped and nudged Toothless and stood up. This was it. Hiccup was was one of the last to get to the ground, which was a large area of wet sand just at the edge of the sea. The boys from his own tribe were already assembled, their dragons hovering a couple of feet above them. Everybody was chattering excitedly, and even Snotlot was looking nervous. The Meathead boys and their dragons seemed to be gigantic, rough-looking customers, far tougher than the hooligans. One in particular was a great hulking brute of a boy, who looked 15 at least. Hiccup presumed he was a thuggery child, Magadon, the Meathead's son. Because of silver gray, monstrous nightmares about 3 feet tall were perched on one of their shoulders, and I was looking at fireworms like Rottweilers, thinking evil thoughts. Fireworm acted unconcerned, and that aristocrat never growls, purred Fireworm sweetly. You must be one of those mongrel nightmares. We purr greenbloods, descended from the great Ripperclaw himself, would never dream of doing anything so common. The silver nightmare's growling increased in volume. The crowd was assembling at the touchline. Hiccup tried not to notice Stoic the Vast blasting his way to the front, of great cries of, out of the way, I am a chief. 10 to 1, my son catches more fish than your son in this test, boomed Stoic, giving out his old enemy Magadon the Meathead a good good prod in the stomach. Magadon the Meathead narrowed his eyes and wondered whether to hit him, maybe after the test. And which, asked Magadon the Meathead, is your son? Is he the tall one that looks like a pig with a skeleton tattoo and the red monstrous nightmare? Nope, said Stoic happily. That's my brother Baggy Bum's son. My son is the skinny one over there with the toothless daydream. Magadon the Meathead broke into a big smile. He slapped Stoic on the back and yelled, I'll take your back and double it. Done, shouted Stoic, and the two great chieftains shook hands and bumped bellies on the bet. Goober the Belch was in charge of the final stage of the initiation. He was still looking a bit green from his unpleasant experience in the how many gold eggs can you eat in 1 minute competition, and this had not improved his temper. All right, you horrible lot, he yelled Goober. This is where we find out if you're the stuff the heroes are made of. You will either walk out of this arena full member of the noble tribes of hairy hooligans and merciless meatheads, or go into miserable exiles forever from the inner isles. Let's see which it's going to be, shall we? He grinned nastily at the 20 boys standing before him. I shall begin by inspecting you and your animals, and if you were warriors about to go into battle, I shall introduce you to the watching members of the tribe you hope to enter. Then the test will begin. You will demonstrate how you have asserted yourself over these wild creatures and tamed them by sheer force of your heroic personalities. You will start by performing the basic commands of go, stay, and fetch, and you will end by ordering your reptile to hunt fish for you, as your forefathers had done before you. Hiccup swallowed nervously. The boy and dragon who most impresses the judge, and that is me, Goober bared his teeth grimly, will receive the extra glory of being called the hero of heroes and the most promising dragon. The boys and dragons who fail this test will say farewell to their families forever and leave the tribe to go where we do not care. Goober paused. Poetry, muttered Fish Legs, just loud enough for Goober to hear. Goober glared at him. Heroes or exiles, yelled Goober the Belch. Heroes or exiles, yelled the 18 boys frantically at him. Heroes or exiles, yelled the watching hooligans and meathead tribes. Please let me be a bit of a hero, just this once, Hiccup and Fishleg each thought to themselves. Nothing too spectacular or anything, just to get through this test. Stand to attention with your dragon on your right arm, yelled Goober the Belch. Goober walked down the row of boys for their inspection. Beautiful turnout, Goober congratulated Thuggery the Meathead on his nightmare dragon killer, who spread out his shining wings to show off the wingspan of about 4 feet. Goober stopped abruptly when he got to Hiccup. And what, in the name of Wooden, demanded Goober, blanching a little, is this? It's a toothless daydream, sir, muttered Hiccup. Small but vicious, added Fish Legs helpfully. Toothless daydream, blustered Goober. That's the smallest common or garden I've ever seen. What do you think I am, an idiot? No, no, sir, murmured Fishlegs reassuringly. Just a little on the slow side. Goober glowered dangerously. A toothless daydream, explained Hiccup, looks a lot like a common gardener except for the characteristic wart on the side of its nose. Silence, said Goober in a very loud whisper, or I shall throw you all the way to the mainland. I hope, he continued, that this dragon hunts better than it looks. You and your fishy friend here are the worst candidates for initiation, and I have ever had the displeasure of teaching. But you are the future of this tribe, Hiccup, and if you shame us in front of the meatheads, I, personally, will never forgive you. Do you understand? Hiccup nodded. Each boy then stepped forward to bow and hold up his dragon for the spectators to applaud. There was a huge clapping from Snot-Faced Snorlot and his dragon, Fireworm, rivaled only by the mighty cheering for Thuggery the Meathead and his dragon killer. I give you, last but not least, Goober the Belcher was trying to put a bit of enthusiasm into his yelling, the fearsome, the terrible, the only son of Stoic the Vast, Hiccup the Useful and his dragon Toothful. Hiccup stepped forward and held up Toothless as high as he could to make him look bigger. There was a slightly appalled silence. People had never seen a dragon this small before. Of course, normally scampering about after field mice in the wild, but not as noble hunting dragons competing in initiation. Size isn't everything, boomed Stoic, so loudly that you could have heard him several beaches away as he banged his great hand together to start the applause. Everyone was terrified of Stoic's famous temper, so they joined in with polite, wild cheering. Toothless was still in the mood, but he was delighted to be at the center of attention. He puffed out his chest and bowed solemnly to the left and to the right. A few of Meathead snickered. I changed my mind, thought Hiccup, closing his eyes. This is the worst moment of my life so far. Okay, Toothless, he whispered into the little dragon's ear. This is our big chance. Catch lots of fish here, and I will tell you more jokes than you've ever heard in your life, which will make that big red fireworm dragon really cross. Toothless took a sideways glance at Fireworm. She was sharpening her nails on Snotlot's helmet with the smug certainty of a dragon who knows she's about to win a prize for most promising dragon. Prop! The test began. Toothless didn't do too badly in the early obedience exercises, though he clearly thought it was extremely dull. It was now raining quite hard, and Toothless hated the rain. He wanted to go home and relax in front of a nice warm fire. Fireworm and Killer were going and fetching as soon as Snoutlout and Thuggery commanded, and they were breathing fire out as they did so, just to show off. Fireworm did some fancy aerobatic somersaults, and the crowd screaming and stamping their feet. Start your hunting, yelled Goober the Belch. Every dragon except for Toothless flew out to sea. Toothless flapped back to Hiccup's shoulder. Toothless got a tummy ache, he complained. Hiccup tried not to see his father looking surprised down the sideline. He tried not to notice the crowd whispering to each other. That stoic son over there. Not the tall one with the skeleton tattoo who looks like a pig. The small skinny one who can't even control his minuscule dragon. Don't forget, Toothless, said Hiccup through gritted teeth. The fish. I'm going to tell you all the jokes I've ever heard, remember? Tell me now, said Toothless. Help came from an unexpected quarter. Snotlot broke off from yelling, kill, Fireworm, kill, to lean over to sneer at Hiccup. What are you doing, Hiccup? You're not talking to the newt with wings, are you? Talking to dragons is against the rules, forbidden by the order of Stoic the Vast, your wimpy father. Newt with wings, repeated Toothless. Newt with wings? You're not a newt with wings, are you, Toothless, said Hiccup. You're the best hunter in the world, aren't you? Too right I am, said Toothless grumpily. You show that snot-faced Snotlout and his snobby dragon what a real hunting dragon can do, said Hiccup urgently. Okay then, said Toothless. Hiccup heaved a huge sigh of relief as Toothless took off in a shambolic fashion in the general direction of the sea. Oh, sorry. This is too good to be true, Hiccup said to himself 10 minutes later as Toothless returned from a second trip, clearly bored for words but dropping a couple of herrings at Hiccup's feet. In about half an hour, I, Hiccup, will become fully paid member of the Hairy Hooligan tribe. It was too good to be true. Fireworm was just flying back to Snotlot with her 20th fish, her green cat eyes snapping with triumph when Toothless called out, "Sloppy snob." Fireworm stopped in midair, her head whirled around and her eyes narrowing. "What did you say?" hissed Fireworm. "Oh, no," said Hiccup. "No, Toothless, no, don't do it." "Sloppy snob," jeered Toothless. "Is that the best you can do?" "It's pathetic, hopeless, useless. You nightmares think you're so cruel, but you're so sloppy as scallops." "You," hissed Fireworm as her ears dangerously back as she crept forward through the air like a leopard about to spring, "are a little liar." "And you," said Toothless calmly, "are a rabbit-hearted, seaweed-brained, wrinkle-eating snob." Fireworm went for him. Toothless streaked off as quick as lightning, and Fireworm's massive jaws snapped together with a sickening crunch of nothing but air. Chaos ensued. Fireworm completely lost control. She plunged wildly through the air, claws out, biting anything that moved, and letting out a great burst of flames. Unfortunately, in the process, she accidentally scratched Killer, a dragon with a very short temper. Killer then attacked any hooligan dragon within biting distance. Soon the dragons were involved in a full-scale, rip-roaring dragon fight, and the boys running around shouting at them to stop and trying to pull them apart without getting killed themselves. The dragons took absolutely no notice whatsoever. However hard the boys yelled, and Thuggery and Snotlot were very red in the face after some pretty impressive yelling. Goober the Belch went ballistic on the sides. "Can somebody tell me what's going on? What in Thor and Odin's name is happening?" Toothless was in his element in this kind of chaos, dodging Fireworm's angry lunges with ease, nipping with lively bait at alligator here and a scratch and bright claw there, obviously enjoying the fight enormously. Even Horror Cow showed a great deal of spirit for a dragon who was supposedly a vegetarian. She managed to give Fireworm a truly impressive bite on the bottom as Fireworm and Killer rolled around the air, biting chunks out of one another. Goober the Belch entered the fray, grabbing hold of Fireworm's tail. Fireworm gave a howl of outrage, squirmed around, and set Goober's beard on fire. With one massive hand, Goober swatted at the fire, and with the other, he clamped Fireworm's jaw together so she couldn't breathe, neither bite nor burn. He tucked the furiously enraged animal under one arm, still holding her mouth closed. "Stop!" screamed Goober the Belch, with a hair-raising, skin-crawling, fang-dropping yell that reverberated off the cliffs, bounced off the sea, and whose faint echoes could be heard on the mainland. The boys stopped their useless screaming. The dragons stopped in midair. There was an awful silence. Even the watching crowd went quiet. This had never happened before. All 20 boys had shown themselves to be completely out of control of their dragons during the initiation test. Technically, this meant all of them should be thrown out of their tribes into exile. And exile in this horrid climate could mean death. Food was scarce, the sea was dangerous, and there were certain wild tribes in the Isles who were rumored to be cannibals. Goober the Belch stood lost for words, his beard still smoking. Then he eventually spoke. His voice was deep with the horror of the situation. "I will have to speak with the elders of the tribe," was all he said. Where was I? He dropped Fireworm on the ground. She had come to her senses and now slunk towards Snotlot, her tail between her legs. The elders of the tribe were Mogadon and Stoic, Goober himself, and a few more of the more fearsome warriors, such as Terrible Toughnut, the Vicious Twins, and Harry Scary Librarian from the Meathead Public Library. The crowd and the boys stood absolutely still as the elders consulted in the traditional elder huddle, which looked a bit like a rugby scrum. Meanwhile, the room was getting worse. Huge claps of thunder. The storm was getting worse, sorry. Huge claps of thunder burst over their heads. The rain poured down, and it couldn't have been much wetter than they had jumped into the sea. The elders consulted for a long time. Magadon got angry at one point and swung a fist at Toughnut. A twin held on to each of his arms until he calmed down again. Eventually, Stoic came out of the huddle, stood before the boys who were hanging their heads in shame with their dragons at their feet. If Hiccup had been able to look at his father, he would have seen that Stoic was not his normal, merry, violent self. He looked very solemn indeed. No vices of the tribe, he bellowed grimly. This is a very bad day for all of you. You have failed the final test of the initiation program. By the fierce laws of the Inner Isles, this means you should be cast out from the tribes into exile forever. I do not want to do this, not only because my own son is among you, but also because it will mean that the whole generation of warriors is lost from the tribe. But we cannot ignore our laws. Only the strong can belong in the cases of blood of the tribes should be weakened. Only heroes can be hooligans and meatheads. Stoic jabbed a fat finger to the heavens. The furthermore, he carried on, the god Thor is really very angry, and this is not the moment to weaken our laws. Thor let out a crash of thunder to underline this point. Under normal circumstances, said Stoic, the ceremony of exile would start now, but going to sea in weather like this would mean certain death for all concerned. As an act of mercy, I will allow you one more night of shelter under my roof. The first thing tomorrow morning, you'll be set ashore on the mainland to fend for yourself. From this moment forth, you're all banished and may not talk to any other member of your tribe. The thunder crashed all around the boys as they stood, heads bowed in the rain. Pity me, for this is the saddest thing I've ever had to do, to banish my own son. The crowd murmured sympathetically, applauding the nobility of their leader. A chief cannot live like other people, said Stoic, looking almost pleadingly at Hiccup. He has decided what is good for the tribe. Suddenly, Hiccup was very angry. Well, don't expect me to pity you, said Hiccup. What kind of father thinks his stupid laws are more important than his own son? What kind of stupid tribe is this anyways, that it can just have ordinary people in it? Stoic stood looking down at his son in surprise and shock for a moment. Then he turned around and trudged off. The tribes were already running off the beach, scrambling up the hillsides towards the shelter of the village. Lightning came coming down all around them. I'm going to kill you, hissed Snotlock at Hiccup, Fireworm snarling menacingly from his shoulder. First thing after we're banished, I'm going to kill you. And he ran off after the others. I've lost my tooth, Toothless complained whiningly. Came out when I bit that fireworm dragon. Hiccup took no notice. He looked up at the heavens beside himself with fury as the wind scooped up seawater into handfuls and flung it straight into his face. Just once, yelled Hiccup. Why couldn't you let me be a hero just once? I didn't want anything amazing, just to pass this stupid test so I could become a proper Viking like everybody else. Thor's thunder boomed and crackled above him blackly. Okay then, screamed Hiccup, hit me with your stupid lightning. Just do something to show you're thinking about me at all. But there were no bolts of lightning for Hiccup. Thor clearly did not think he was important enough for an answer. The storm moved out to sea. That's the end of that chapter. A lot of stuff happened in that chapter. A long chapter too, wasn't it? So in that chapter, we got to Thor's Day. Thor's Day, when they had a big party, all kinds of competitions. But the big fun thing is the final initiation to get these kids, see if they're strong enough to be part of the tribes. Hiccup got Toothless to start doing what he needed him to because he's going to tell him all the jokes he knows. Well, Toothless is still kind of a brat. That's all you can really call him. And he started a fight which ended badly. All the dragons were fighting. So all of the other kids and Hiccup got banished. Which means they're going to be sent to the mainland. It's kind of a sad thing, but I'm sure there'll be more adventures because they did. At the end, Thor, the god of thunder and lightning, they said he was bringing on a storm because he was upset, and the storm just kept. What did I say again? The storm moved out to the sea. That's how it ended. All right. So until next time, we'll read more of How to Train Your Dragon. See ya later.